St. Louis Acura is excited to announce the opening of our newly remodeled service lounge. We sell pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models and take pride in servicing what we sell. We offer free pickup and delivery service and a complimentary car wash and vacuum with every service. We also have a full-service reconditioning shop on site that can repair dents, bumpers, and wheels. As the nation's only 29-time Acura Precision Team winner for customer satisfaction, we work every day to make St. Louis Acura better than ever for you.
Hey, welcome back into Weekend Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Munganess Alton Toyota right here on ClaibsOnline.com. It is week 0 of the college football season and some Big Ten games coming up on the schedule. So we welcome in from goldandblack.com, also rivals Yahoo Sports. He is Tommy D, Tom Dienhart. What's going on, Tom? How are you?
Good to see your smiling face, Joe Roderick. I'm happy because, as you mentioned, football is on our doorstep, right? And what a difference from this time last year till, of course, today. And the COVID situation, I know it's still prevalent. There's still worries about some of these teams coming up with infections. But by and large, we should have a pretty clear runway. And, of course, fans are going to be in the stands. And boy, that's going to make a huge difference in the atmosphere of these ball games.
How do you like I think this is the second or third year we're doing the week 0. How do you like the marketing behind that?
I like it. It's sort of an appetizer, Joe. And I'm older than you, and maybe you remember, but way back in the day, they had the old Kickoff Classic in New Jersey at the Meadowlands. It was just one game. It was usually like Alabama against Penn State, some mega matchup against marquee programs that sort of served as sort of, I guess, the kickoff to the season. Well, now we have this week 0 where we get a few games sprinkled across a couple days here to sort of whet our appetites for this coming season. And there's a lot to be excited about.
As I'm looking at the schedule here, and I mean, it's, you know what? They are schools that people know. They are schools that have alumni that are going to tune in, because on Saturday, it's Nebraska, Illinois, it's Hawaii, UCLA. You know what? That the Midwest people are going to tune in. The West Coast people are going to tune in. They are going to love seeing football with people in the stands. They don't care at all who's playing in the game. They might only watch a quarter of it, but they're still going to tune in, and they're going to love the fact that there's football back on their television.
Joe, people watch NFL preseason games.
And they bet on them.
They bet on them. The ratings are off the charts. So America just loves football. We all know that. And these are college football games, obviously, that are going to count and mean something. Aside from these preseason games, they're just tune-ups for those NFL franchises. So for your viewership, Illinois, Nebraska, what a lid lifter, full of intrigue, Joe. The beginning of the Brett Bielema era at Illinois, there's a lot of excitement there. They've tried time and again to get the script right in Champaign. Going back, to the Mike White era, they just seem like they keep running through coaches. Some have some success. Others are colossal failures. And they're hoping Bielema is a guy that can get that program back on track, sort of where Ron Zook had them 10 years or so ago when he got the Illini to the Rose Bowl. But great opportunity on their home field against a Nebraska team that's got a lot of urgency here under Scott Frost. I think he needs to win this year. He's got a new boss, and Trev Alberts is the AD. And again, it'd be a nice way for the Illini to open the Bielema era and get off onto a good start here.
Which Brett Bielema are Illini fans going to see? Are they going to see the one that had successful runs at Wisconsin? Or are they going to see the Brett Bielema that went down to Arkansas at the SEC and it was not good?
Yeah, Brett had some success in Fayetteville. It wasn't great, though. You're right. It really paled compared to what he had going on at Wisconsin. And, it's going to be interesting to see, what Bielema they get. He went off to the NFL for a few years, worked with Bill Belichick, sort of fine-tuned his resume at that level. He's come back to the collegiate ranks now. He's a native of Illinois, Joe, from Prophetstown. Played football at Iowa. We know about the coaching experience at Wisconsin. Now he's back in the Big Ten in his home state. I know he's very motivated. He's very excited. And if there's one thing we learned about Brett Bielema in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Fayetteville, Arkansas, is he likes to run the football. He likes to be physical, play that old-fashioned 1970s Big Ten football. It'll be interesting to see if he maintains that philosophy or if he doesn't try to open things up a little bit this year. He's got a veteran quarterback. They named Brandon Peters the starter recently. Of course, he began his career at Michigan. He's been in Champaign a few years. Maybe Brett will throw a little bit more this year than he usually does.
It seems, getting him back in the Midwest, getting him some of those corn-fed linemen that he had up in Wisconsin and recruiting back some of those kids from the area. Maybe that's what he needs. Maybe that's just what he wasn't getting down there in Arkansas because he had some big boys on that line. Yeah. And you look at some of the running backs and some of the numbers those running backs were putting up in Wisconsin. He had a great system going there that just didn't pan out down south.
He did. His roster at Illinois is very interesting. I think he's got more super seniors than anybody in the nation. Of course, super seniors, Joe, are the guys who are back for a 6th year of college eligibility that was given to them because of last year's, truncated COVID season for a lot of these players. So it's going to be a veteran roster in Champaign. That's always a good place to start. If you're a head coach, you like to have veterans on your roster. So, you know what, Joe, the other thing about the Big Ten West, which is where Illinois plays, is there's no Ohio State, there's no Penn State, there's no Michigan. My point is that's a division, I think, for anybody who's in it, if they're hitting on all cylinders, they have a chance to win this thing. So I'm not saying Illinois is going to win it this year. I think Brett's got some work to do. But I think if Illinois can really get humming here, Brett can get some momentum going, they could quickly move up the pecking order in that Big Ten West division.
You look at the preseason top 25 right now, and there is no Penn State listed in there. Michigan has seemed to be missing from that for a few years now. Ohio State right now, the only top 10 team from the Big Ten. Is the Big Ten going to be strong this year? I know Wisconsin's knocking on the door at number 12, but are they going to be? Is it going to be a deep conference this season?
It's interesting. I think it'll be an average conference this year. It's crazy. I did my first Big Ten power poll today, and of course I had Ohio State number 1. No big shock there, right? My number 2 team in the Big Ten, Joe, Indiana. How about that?
Wow.
So the Hoosiers, of course, under Tom Allen, have made great strides. They almost won the Big Ten East last year. They have a lot of great players coming back, including their quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. Penn State's going to be right there. They closed last year with 4 wins in a row. James Franklin's done a great job in State College, PA. You mentioned Wisconsin. I think they're the belle of the ball in the Big Ten West as usual. And Iowa's going to be right there. I think they're the second best team in the West. So, yeah, these are top 25 caliber teams. But I'm not sure if even Ohio State, Joe, they lost Justin Fields, their quarterback. So a lot of other key personnel's gone in Columbus. They're going to be good. I'm not sure if they're going to be national championship good this year, though.
We heard earlier this week about the Alliance, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the ACC have decided that they are going to come together and try to collaborate for the future evolution of college athletics, I believe is the wording that they used for that. What if people are hearing about the Alliance for the first time, how are you explaining it to them about what those 3 conferences are going to try to accomplish?
There was a lot of hot air the other day in that press conference. But we sort of agreed to maybe do something in the future. There are really no absolutes here. I think a big takeaway is there is a gentleman's agreement between those 3 conferences, basically not to pillage each other, not to try to lure one of their members into their conference. Of course, Joe, if the SEC calls Clemson, is Clemson really going to say no? But long story short, these conferences don't want to pillage each other. They want to stay intact. And they want to also, I think, work together when it comes to structuring the college football playoff. And they also want to have, I guess, a voting block, if you will, against the SEC when it comes to future legislation, especially when it comes to trying to figure out what the NCAA is going to look like in the future as well. They want to have their 3 like-minded conferences together in order to sort of try to keep the SEC in check here. So there's some gamesmanship here. I think it was a swipe at the SEC with their recent conference expansion, adding Oklahoma and adding Texas. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Again, nothing really official. They talked about trying to schedule each other in non-conference games in the future, Joe, but that could be 10 or 15 years down the road. So right now, it was a nice gesture. And I think more than anything, again, it was a gesture that these three conferences are going to be staying united. They're also not going to take each other's members.
You know, I think we've talked about this before. I'm a Western Illinois guy, so I follow when I can the Missouri Valley Conference. And as you look at some of the schedules this year, is that something that we are going to start seeing less and less of some of those Division I AA or I guess FCS teams? Are we going to start seeing less of them playing the big boys when you start to see all these conferences come together?
Just as a for instance, the Big Ten, as a for instance, most of these schools in the Big Ten, Joe, they've already scheduled out their non-conference for into the 2030s. I may be dead by then. My point is there's not really going to be any openings for a long time here, and they're not going to buy out these games either. So the 1AA schools, the FCS schools, they're still going to be featured on a lot of these schedules over the next 10 years or so. And I think there's probably always going to be a place for those schools to play the quote-unquote big boys. I sure hope there is, because it's a nice experience for those schools. It's also a heck of a nice payday, Joe. And that's what it's all about. It's about Western Illinois going to Iowa to get $1 million check, which goes a long way toward funding the rest of that athletic department in Macomb, Illinois. So, and every once in a while, those teams win those games. You know, Northern Iowa's beaten Iowa in the past. They've beaten Iowa State in the past. We see an FCS school knock off a quote-unquote big boy almost every year. North Dakota State are great examples too. So
nobody wants to play the Bison.
And I just hope there's always a spot for those schools to fill in these FBS schedules here in the future. And I think there will be.
Yeah, that just got me looking. I'm even looking at the schedule this year, and yeah, Western has none of those. I guess Ball State. I guess would they be considered that big?
Oh yeah, well it's an FBS school. I mean, it's not a major conference, but it is an FBS school. So yeah, like I said, I know there's some dotted on there. I'm sure. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but it's always a nice opportunity, like I said.
So when we get out of week 0 and we get into week 1 of the college football season and even the early stages of it, are you traveling anywhere big? I know last year we talked, you weren't traveling, you weren't getting to go do that. What are you looking forward to personally to go and see in person this year during the college football season?
Well, I know I'm going to be at the Oregon State Purdue game on September 4th, and the Big Ten's got some very interesting non-conference games. You have Washington playing Michigan. It's going to be very interesting. And maybe you have Oregon playing Ohio State as well. How about this, Joe? You've got Auburn going to Penn State, which is going to be another very good non-conference game within that Big Ten conference. And there's always some fun, I guess, appetizers, if you will, that feature teams from power conferences playing each other. And those are games everybody circles on their calendar.
Will Jim Harbaugh be the head coach at Michigan in 2022?
I'm going to say no. I think this is a put up or shut up season. Finally, Michigan hasn't won the Big Ten, if you can believe this, since 2004. What were you doing in 2004, Joe Roderick?
2004, I was a sophomore at Western Illinois University.
Think about that. That's the last time mighty Michigan won the Big Ten. With all those resources, with all that money, with all those recruiting advantages, they haven't won the Big Ten since you were a sophomore in college. Think about that. Probably a fake ID, didn't you? But,
I did. I got it taken away from me at the top link. Yes.
I tell you, this last year, the AD at Michigan stripped down Harbaugh's contract, reduced his buyout, and basically the message that was being sent was, look, Jim, this is probably going to be it. Either you push us to that next level or we're probably going to make a change here. Harbaugh really, really mixed up his staff at Michigan, went younger, We'll see, my friend. He still hasn't beaten Ohio State. I guess basically in a nutshell, Joe, the script for Michigan under Harbaugh has been they've beaten who they're supposed to beat and they lose to who they're supposed to lose to. There's been no real breakthrough wins. Still haven't won the Big Ten East. Still have never been in the Big Ten championship game. And you know what? I think the big Achilles heel for him at Michigan has been an inability to develop his own quarterback. If you can believe that, I never thought I'd be saying that 5 or 6 years into the Harbaugh era. Given his track record with quarterbacks in the National Football League, he never really has a quarterback, Joe. And the question still hangs over this year's team whether they have a good quarterback.
I'm trying to sit here and think of a Michigan quarterback that has come out under him, and I can't. I'm drawing a blank on who.
Remember they had the Ole Miss transfer Shea Patterson recently. He was okay. You know what's crazy is maybe his best quarterback was one of the first ones he had. The transfer from Iowa, and Jake Rudock, just sort of a pedestrian guy, but he played in the NFL for a little bit as an undrafted free agent, and I think that says a lot. When you can say Jake Rudock, an Iowa transfer, probably was the best quarterback Harbaugh has had, and like I said, he's recruited some marquee guys, has not developed any of them though, really.
When you look at one of the biggest things that happened this offseason to college sport, the NIL agreement, the name, image, and likeness that players are now getting money for, is that something you think we're going to start seeing in commercials on TV? Do you think we're going to start seeing more of that, or is that going to be more of like in stadium? Or when you're heading to West Lafayette, you're going to see, whoever Purdue's quarterback sitting up there by the Triple X Diner, with a nice Purvis was it Wayne Purvis burger right up there? Yeah.
You know your stuff, Joe, right? The Wayne Purvis All-Americans, the hamburger with peanut butter on it. Yeah. I think you're probably going to have a few guys that maybe take this to a national level, Joe. Not many. I think a guy like Spencer Rattler, the quarterback at Oklahoma, you're going to have to be a player of that ilk, playing for a true blue blood program, playing a position like quarterback. I think those type of guys, we've already seen it, right, with the Alabama quarterback, Bryce Young. He hasn't even played a snap yet. He's supposed he's going to get close to $1 million already. So I think players in those type of programs at that position, you could see regionally, maybe nationally, but I think by and large, most of this is going to be like you were alluding to, Joe, more provincial, probably more local too. Down to just guys getting money from running camps, for signing autographs. It's going to run the gamut. The good thing is the door has been kicked open. What's really going to be fascinating is to see where we're at in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years with this. Right now, there's still no overall NCAA legislation that really governs this. It's sort of the Wild West, Joe. It's the Wild West right now. And nobody's really watching the door. So a lot of people think it's going to be the end of college athletics. It's ruining things. I don't think so. This will sort itself out. I think there's going to be some growing pains. We'll all adjust. And in the long run, these college athletes deserve to make any money they can off their own name, image, and likeness. It's only the American way, right?
Yeah, I think in what you're seeing now are a lot of kids having some fun with it. The Kool-Aid sponsorship down in Alabama and some of the other ones that I think you're going to see local are just kids. It's just going to be kids being kids and getting a little money for it on the side. I think in most cases you would hope that there aren't going to be boosters abusing it, but it's going to happen at some point.
It's already happening. It's already happening before this. So.
Well, Tom, we appreciate your time with us. I'm excited to see your coverage now that you will be out on the road, back on the road, covering some Big Ten games, covering all of the Purdue stuff over at goldandblack.com. And we'll talk again down the road.
Thank you, Joe Roderick. I appreciate you.